Another blood-red sunset and yet another moon phase, and still another 100 miles to my next resting place. Driving down the road, eyes on the horizon. Within my car, I'm all alone, but feeling good and feeling strong, knowing that this path I'm on brings me to myself. I'm driving.
Hey now all, I'm Joey C. Welcome back to another episode of Spirit Sherpa. This is the show that helps and encourages you on your journey to unlock your magic mojo. With me as always is the Spirit Doctor, Kelle Sparta. Hey Kelly.
Hey Joey.
What's shaking?
I don't know. Not much.
No? Just living a dream? You're fighting a migraine.
I am fighting
shaking.
a migraine, and you're getting over your second shot of COVID, so this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, exactly. This should be the nap episode. Can we make a nap episode?
We'll do a nap episode. Everyone just, if you're driving, just pull over. We're all going to sleep.
We're all going to take a nap together. We're going to take a 25-minute nap. I think that's great. A little cat nap. Just the sound of us breathing. That's fine.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I was going to do a sound healing this time, and I was like, I just can't. We're going to we'll do sound healing.
Sound healing will come up. I'm not going to lie to you. I was looking forward to the sound healing. I figured I'd nap while you were doing the healing.
Sorry. If it weren't for the migraine, I would have done it.
Okay.
But, that's how that goes. So
see, we adjust. We talk about that all the time. We adjust.
Yeah. Punt.
Exactly. Well, what are we talking about today?
So we're going to talk about mastering conflict, which is, sort of the polar opposite of sound healing.
Exactly.
But it's something I can do when I'm not entirely conscious. So we're going to talk about it because I can do this one in my sleep. So, and I may be. So
you and me both.
So, yeah, we're going to talk about mastering conflict. And I'm actually going to add another layer to it. I'm going to talk about inner conflict as well as outer conflict. Okay. Because it's relevant. Okay. So don't worry, Joey. I'll do most of the heavy lifting.
I look forward to it.
Okay. Conflict, the reason that empaths have such a hard time with conflict is that, for one, if the conflict is going to hurt the other person's feelings, then we have both the challenge of feeling bad about hurting their feelings and then feeling those hurt feelings, right? Because as empaths, we pick up on it. And so, this creates an inner conflict unto itself, which is the conflict between, do we stand up for ourselves and speak our truths, or do we hurt the other person's feelings and then have to feel all of the crap associated with that? And, having been trained in childhood to not stand up for ourselves and not be our own people, and in fact, not be people at all, but adjuncts of others around us, we generally tend to err on the side of, going along rather than speaking our truths. And so when we are forced into a position where we have no choice but to confront, we tend to wait way too long to do it, and then we explode all over people, right? Yay, happy joy. Boom! You thought I was okay with this, but I'm not. Right? I know I didn't say anything because you didn't give me any room, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Everything I've ever been mad about my entire life is coming out at you right now, right? That's
it's the trigger that sets off the fuse.
You look like catharsis. I actually said that once. I did. I was traveling with my mother, who was not a fun person to travel with. And I was in France, and we had been screwed over by the French more than once from, the hotel desk clerk selling us the exact same tour day and night, because they were named something different, but it was the exact same tour, just in daytime and nighttime, to we were trying to find a bathroom. The woman in the restaurant where we went to this is the difference between me and my mother. Okay. I go into the restaurant. So there's an emptying out. There's like one couple left at a table, and the hostess and the maitre d' are sitting there, and you can tell they're trying to close it. And then to the right in the same establishment is a hopping bar. The bar is just hopping. And so I walk up, stare up at the bar for a second, walk over, find the restrooms on the side, pay my 2 francs, which they cost 2 francs to get into the stall, do my business, come out, some random guy hands me my 2 francs back, and I walk back out. My mother, I hand her my francs, I tell her where the bathroom is. She walks in directly through the empty cafe. And the hostess goes, "We are closed." And my mother says, "I just want to use the bathroom." And she says, "It is broken." And my mother said, "Well, that's not true because my daughter just used it," and keeps walking. So, of course, the woman now turns and looks at me and, "This is not a public restroom," blah, 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 and just like starts yelling at me. And I'm like, "Lady, you want to go there? My last name is Lecomte, and I will tell you I've had a miserable experience of your entire country. And I'm having to deal with that woman who just walked by you. So guess what? You look like catharsis."
Oh, my goodness.
And I went off. Man, this was 20 years ago, right? I had no filters. Bang, right? And I just was like, she's yelling at me and I'm yelling at her. And the couple at the table was obviously American because they're laughing their asses off. But this is what we do, right? We don't confront, and then we explode, sometimes on a stranger, right? And, I'm just saying, I've been there. Thankfully, a very long time ago. But yes, I have been there. So, when you're looking at conflict, the first thing I'm going to say is never choose the path that is abandoning yourself. Okay, let's start with that. Always speak your truth, even if it hurts somebody else. Okay. If you haven't downloaded the free download on my website, Boundaries for Empaths, you're going to want this to do this work, because that will keep you from feeling the pain that you are causing, which will help you to choose yourself, right? When you learn how to do the process in the Boundaries for Empaths program, you won't have to feel what the other person's feeling. And that makes it easier. Okay. I'm also going to tell you their feelings are not your responsibility, which I know is a revelation to many of you. Okay. No one else's feelings are your responsibility, just as your feelings are no one else's responsibility. Okay. And we've talked about this before too. So the very first thing is do not abandon yourself. Okay. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is speak early and speak often. Okay. Because the other reason we have a hard time with conflict is that we wait too long to say anything. And we build up angst and build up upset and build up hurt and build up until we explode. Right? And therefore, we have never had a positive conflict experience. Right? Because our definition of conflict is I will wait until I'm absolutely miserable and then I will vent all over you. And then the other person gets justifiably defensive. Right? My ex-husband used to do this. He would wait 3 months to tell me he was upset about something, and then he wouldn't be able to define for me exactly what it was that he was upset about. And then I would say, well, if you can't tell me what I did wrong, then I'm not going to listen to you be upset about it, because I can't fix what I don't know what I'm doing. Right? And so he was very frustrated by this. But, from my end, it was either beg him to yell at me because he wouldn't say it without prompting, or it was, wait and be blindsided with something that happened 3 months ago. And neither one was a valuable solution for me, right? On the receiving end. So, this is what you're doing to other people if you wait and you build up, right? So you need to speak early and speak often. And when you speak early and you speak often, what happens is you're saying it in the moment, the first moment that it bothers you. And then you can say something like, I didn't appreciate that comment. Or, I really prefer you did it this way instead. Or, No, I don't want that. Right? And instead of just knuckling under and wishing it were different and being pissed off that they didn't notice that you were upset, because that's what we do, right? We're like, come on, I would know if you were upset. Why don't you know when I'm upset? Right? Because they're not being inappropriately codependent in their energetics. That's why. Okay. Let's be clear. Okay. So yeah, we do this. We're like, you just must not care. It's like, no, they're just not reading your energy in the way that you're reading theirs. And that's actually healthy. You speak when you're upset. And you speak when you're happy, and you speak. It's amazing. You speak. Okay. So when you say this didn't work for me, you can do it very easily if you do it immediately. You know, I'm a Scorpio. I hold a fucking grudge forever, man. I will. The longer I have to wait to say something, the more upset I am. So I absolutely have to say something very quickly because you don't want it to fester. So, the thing is that when you speak it early, then you can say it softly, right? You can say, hey, that didn't work for me, or ow, that kind of hurt my feelings. And then the other person says, oh, I'm sorry. And novel concept, everything is better. It's like, oh, it was just that simple, right? And sometimes it's just, calling something out. And it's oftentimes addressing the thing that we're afraid of. So years ago, I had a friend, and she started acting strangely. She would be there, and when we were together, it was like we were best friends and we'd never been apart, and everything was together. We were all in, right? And then when we were apart, she would make plans with me and then cancel over and over and over again. And I finally called her up and I said, look, you are being really inconsistent in our friendship. I said, I don't know if I'm your best friend or if you never want to see me again. I said, I can't tell. And she said, well, I don't know. I said, well, that's clear. But, why? And she said, well, I don't feel good around you. And I'm like, okay, why? And she told me, and she was right. Right? She said, and what had happened was we had developed our friendship early on in both of our processes, when we were both still in our warrior love stage, right? Where we would just beat on each other to make things, it's like, hey, did you notice this? Did you notice this? Bang, 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 right? And we never evolved the relationship, even though we evolved ourselves. And I said, you're absolutely right. That's not how I treat anybody else. I said, I'm happy to shift our relationship if you'd like. Because you're right, we didn't evolve this. And I've stayed in our default mode, and that's how I've been. And I didn't realize that it wasn't working for you. And I'm happy to shift it because I would rather do that anyway. And she said, no, I think I just need to be done. And I was really sad, right? But I said, okay. I said, I understand. But she had waited too long to speak. She had waited until she was too angry to say anything. And if she had spoken a year or two before, because she did hold on to it for a long time, right? If she had spoken a year or two before, then it wouldn't have come to the point where our friendship had to end. I could have simply shifted our dynamic and, from my side, and we would have had space to continue the friendship. I'm still sad about it. I still miss her, but it is what it is, right? So it's something where you have to recognize that sometimes you're setting yourself up to lose things and lose people. There's a way in which we are sabotaging ourselves when we fail to confront in a timely fashion. So that's outer conflict, right? Now, actually, before I go too much further, I want to say this. Notice that I said, I'm not sure where you're coming from. when I confronted her. I said, I'm not sure where you're coming from on this. I don't know what the deal is. I'm getting mixed messages. And I let her tell me what was true for her, right? I didn't tell her how she felt, right? Which we have a tendency to do because we make up the story in our head and then we tell the other person how they're feeling because we know, right? Right? But sometimes no. That's number one. I didn't tell her how she felt. I asked. Number two is when you're confronting, the other thing to do is to check in, right? And say, you said this, and I heard from what I heard was this. Is that what you meant to say? Right? Because sometimes somebody will say words that mean something to them and you hear them as something else. You make it mean something else and you get upset, your button gets pushed and now you're pissed off and they didn't mean that at all. Okay. So this is the other reason why we confront immediately is because it improves communication. Now I'm saying this as we're coming into Mercury retrograde. Okay. So today is Mercury retrograde as we're recording this. And we're going to be in Mercury retrograde for 3 weeks. So we'll be in Mercury retrograde by the time you hear this. But communication breaks down during Mercury retrograde. So this is a great time to have this conversation. The very first thing is I heard this. Is that what you meant to say? Right? Because if it's not, then great. Okay. Another way to do this is to say, hey, I have a paranoia. Right.
Okay. How so?
You haven't returned my last 2 texts and I have a paranoia that you don't want to be my friend anymore. Okay. And then I'm owning that it's the story I'm telling myself. Right. And I'm asking you if it's true. And yeah, is there risk in that? Yeah. Because they might come back and say, yeah, I don't want to be your friend anymore. Or they might not respond to that text either. Right.
Which would be even worse.
Which would be, yeah. But I mean, regardless, but, and for you people, for the people out there who are younger, right? For the millennial generation and younger, where ghosting is okay. I want to tell you ghosting is not okay. Okay. Ghosting is cruel. If you want to be done with someone, just tell them. Because it is so unfair to be on the receiving end of someone ghosting you. So don't be a coward. Speak your truth. Tell them the truth. Don't just disappear. It's cruel to the other person. So you can say, I have a paranoia. Okay? And another piece that you can do, and here's the thing. Okay, here's the rule. All right. You do not confront unless you want to stay in relationship or get closer to the person. Okay. So for all of you out there who righteously want to tell everybody exactly what they need to know, because I've been there. Right? I know. Unless you want to be in closer relationship with that person, you do not clear an upset with them. Okay? Because that you're not clearing an upset. You are venting all over them. Okay? Somebody that you don't want to be closer to in relationship that you are clearing an upset with, you are actually just ripping them a new asshole. That's what you're doing. You're not trying to feel better. You're trying to get your anger out. And they're the target. Okay. So, you look like catharsis. That's what that is, right? It is not an acceptable path. So only do the conflict clearing if it's someone you want to stay in relationship with and or deepen the relationship with. Okay. Otherwise, just, walk away and let them have their own crap. Unless, if they've stolen something from you, take them to court, turn them into the police, whatever. But clearing is not something you do with people that you don't want to be closer in relationship with. because that's not actually what you'll be doing if that's the case. Okay, so if you never want to see somebody again, giving them the what for on the way out is not clearing. It doesn't help anything. It only makes you angrier, and it only makes them more defensive, and it will never come out better. Okay, you are not going to feel better having told them off. I promise you, because all it's going to do is get your adrenaline running, and you're going to be more pissed off than when you started, because there will be no admission of guilt from their end. I promise you, because you'll be ripping into them, and they'll be clear that you're not. There's no point in them admitting guilt. All it'll do is make them more vulnerable to you. So that is never going to happen. So let's be clear. Okay. Now, inner conflict management. When you are in conflict with yourself, so a good indicator that you're in conflict with yourself is that you're stuck. Okay. You can't move forward. You can't go back. You can't go anywhere because you can't make up your own mind. Right? The stuck is almost always a function of a fear trumping a desire. Okay? And the desire has run so deep that it's become a need. Because that's why you can't go back. Right? So when you have an inner conflict of stuckness, you have to face the fear and do it anyway. Right? So, there's a video on my YouTube channel called Stuckville. There's actually two. There's Stuckville Straight and Stuckville Funny. I highly recommend Stuckville Funny, but Stuckville Straight has a deeper dive into the concepts, whereas Stuckville Funny is just funny. It's what happens when you tell Kathy to be on video and give her nothing to do. It's like, yeah, she's a graduate of Second City improv. You just don't do that. So Stuckville Funny was the first take. Stuckville Straight was the second one after I told her to straighten up and fly right. So anyway, the upshot is that Stuckville has its own stuff, but you got to face the fear and you got to do it anyway. Okay. I've just been talking to people about this a lot recently. One of the instructions that I give to my participants in my program is, as they're trying to learn new magical techniques and new relationship-based techniques and things like that, is like, look, just give yourself permission to fuck it up. Fuck it up hard. Just fuck it up really hard. And then you'll practice because you have permission to do it badly, right? When we have to be perfect, we won't do it because we're afraid of screwing up, right? So this is what I'm saying with this, okay? Give yourself permission, because that's usually the fear. The fear is usually, I'm going to screw it up and I'm going to look bad, or I'm going to, lose credibility, or I'm going to lose face, or I'm going to be humiliated, or I'll be a target, or whatever, right there. That's usually the fear that stops us from pursuing our passions. So I'll give you that. Now, inner conflict at another level is making yourself a promise and then breaking it. Will create an inner conflict, because your inner child will revolt. They will go into temper tantrum mode and sabotage everything. Okay. This just happened to me. Okay. It just happened to me like 2 days ago. I slipped and fell in the shower a couple weeks ago, and we got the hospital bills in, and they were thousands of dollars. And it turns out that they didn't put the insurance in. So, it's not thousands of dollars. I don't know how much it is, but, it'll be much less than that. But before I knew that, I freaked out and went, well, crap. I had given so for 20 years, my definition of success was having a hot tub. And the reason is because it meant I owned a house and I had $7,000 worth of random cash to just throw it, the randomness of having a hot tub, right? And so it meant that not only did I own a house, but I also had financial security, right? So that became my definition of success for years. And I was just about to put in the cement slab and the gazebo that would hold the hot tub come fall. And when I saw that bill, I went, oh, I'm going to have to put that on hold until we get this paid off. And I immediately was unable to work. I sat down and my brain would just fuzz and I would just stare at it. And I'm like, nope, don't want to work. Nope, don't want to. Nope, got nothing. My inner child was having a temper tantrum. She was like, no, I earned this. It's mine. Right? And it took me a while to figure it out. I actually had to call somebody up and talk to them about it and be able to talk it through and be like, well, I don't know why I can't work. 3 days ago, I was fine. Now I'm just like, I got nothing. Right? And I finally figured it out. And I went to my husband and I said, we need to do this even though. And he went, yeah, okay. He's like, I see that. He's like, you deserve it. You've worked hard. Let's do it. I'm like, okay. So, this is the sort of thing that you've got to pay attention to in your inner landscape is when you're tooting along and suddenly you hit the wall, you have to figure out what you did because there's some sort of inner conflict that you have created that has caused you to shut down. The other thing that could be happening is you could be fried beyond belief. Okay. I had a conversation with one of my clients the other day and she's like, well, I'm taking time for myself and I'm feeling better. I'm like, yeah, but feeling overdone, the average person's overdone is the empath's normal. Right? When we say we're overdone, we're actually crispy crittered. There's smoke coming off of our hair, right? And we're fried beyond belief, but we're just like, oh, I'm a little overdone. No, honey, you're smoking, right? And so, sometimes we can hit that shutdown point because our inner meter of what's overdone and what isn't is not very good, right? And so we have to learn to recalibrate it. We have to learn to, because we also, we put ourselves into crispy critter saying, oh, I'm a little overdone. And then we're surprised when an afternoon off doesn't fix it. Right? And we're like, no, I gave myself an afternoon off. I took an extra long lunch. I'm fine. It's like, no, you're still burnt, right? We have to peel off the burnt parts and let the rest of you heal. There's going to be a process, right? Because you don't understand where that line is. So sometimes that's the case too. So I just want to make you aware that it may be one or the other. Okay. So, but those are some good inner conflict pieces to look at, right? The last one I want to give you, and then we'll wrap it up. And the last one is, sometimes our ego is trying to keep us safe from change. Okay. Well, it kind of is, yes, but the ego doesn't like to die. Okay, it has a survival mechanism. And sometimes the inner conflict is the ego not wanting to die and you trying to grow. And the two can't exist at the same time. And so what you just need to do at that point is look at it and say, I get that this feels unsafe to you. And I get that this means that I'm going to become somebody new. And that's okay. I'm going here come hell or high water. So you need to get on board. Right? And so sometimes that will be the resolution to the inner conflict piece as well. Okay? So that's outer conflict and inner conflict. And I've managed through my migraine and you're still kicking.
I'm still awake. Yeah. Look at this.
Kelle, yeah, right?
This is a Spirit Sherpa success.
Hey! So, we're talking about these concepts and I just want to make people aware that there is the Inner Peace 101 program. And this program is specifically designed to help you get out of these sorts of fear, anxiety, worry, dread, self-doubt, inner and outer judgments, building a foundation of courage and self-support, right? These are the things that you get out of that program, and they start you on the path to really being able to master these types of skills, okay? And I want to say that this process is not something that is included in the program even, I mean, we've done, I try to supplement the program with the stuff in the podcast, right? So, there's so much more, right? There's so much information in there. And I just want you guys to be aware that if you're feeling lost, I signed somebody up this morning for the program who was just like, I have read so many books. I've been to therapy. I have taken classes. I have done research. I've done scientific research. I've done spiritual research. And I keep finding these terms that say I need to learn how to set my boundaries. I need to learn how to love myself, but I have no idea how to implement that. Right? I give you the directions on how to implement. Okay. So don't feel like you're alone. If you feel like you're a really smart person and you should be able to figure this out, I totally get it. And you absolutely should if you had the information you needed. But the problem is it's not easily accessible, and your brain doesn't work in the right way to assimilate it right now. And so what we do is we tell you how to do it, and we twist your brain into the right orientation so that you can take it in. If that's something that's interesting to you, by all means, sign up for a discovery call. There's a link in every show note that we do.
It's also on kellesparta.com. They can just go there and sign up there.
Yeah. If you're not sure you're ready or not, you can always join the mailing list. The boundaries for empaths that we talked about earlier is also in the show notes. So click on there. It'll take you straight to the download for that. And that will, by the way, put you on the mailing list. So if you don't know how to get on the mailing list, that'll do it. We'll see you on the next show.
Perfect. Wow. Kellyism before we wrap up?
Kellyism. Confront early, confront often.
Wow, confront often too. Yes, put yourself out there.
Get what you want.
Get what you want.
Truth.
Absolutely.
Speak your truth. Take up your space.
Hooah.
Advocate for yourself.
Feels like we're giving motivational speaking now here. I'm not sure.
Hey, why not? Every now and again.
Every now and again. Okay, that is all that we have for this week. But be sure to join us next time as Kelle adds another chapter into your guide to energy, magic, and the spirit world. I am Joey C., here with Kelle Sparta, and you have been listening to Spirit Sherpa. So long, everyone.
Each mile I travel over 13,000 now.
Spirit Sherpa is the sole property of Kelle Sparta Enterprises and is distributed under a Creative Commons BY-NC-ND 4.0 license. For more information about this licensing, please go to www.creativecommons.org. Any requests for deviations to this licensing should be sent to kelly@kellesparta.com. To sign up for or get more information on the programs, offerings, and services referenced in this episode, please go to www.kellesparta.com. This episode of Spirit Sherpa has been produced by Honu Voice Productions, with post-production by Christopher Wright.
Into my home and my life.